All right, thanks everybody for joining me for JKD. Jeet Kune Do, we are gonna bow the class in. Like I say all the time, we do all the salutations to be reverent to the arts and the cultures and the instructors that have influenced us, regardless of which subject area we're in. So Chinese, Filipino, Thai, Indonesian, French and Dog Brothers, Japanese. So super quick, because I want to get into training right away. Last week, we looked at a lot of the kickboxing basics for Jun Fan Level 1. So I'm going to explain this super quickly, how I do business, and then we're going to get into, I want to review the punches, and I want to add to what we did last week as far as Western boxing. But I do want to clarify this. So there's lots of arguments, misunderstandings, disagreements. It's a really bad pun, so please excuse me. You know, infighting, if you will, in Jeet Kune Do circles about what is and what is not Jeet Kune Do. This is the way that I teach it. And at this point, what I'm about to say is not a statement of ego. I'm stating some credentials and nothing more. And to me, rank in martial arts is just like a college degree. It doesn't solve any of the major problems in your life. All it is verification that you were willing to go through a certain set of requirements to earn, you know, a piece of paper that basically says that you went through those requirements. So at this point, I am a Senior Associate Instructor of Jeet Kune Do under Sifu Dan Inosanto. I am a very newly certified Associate Level 1 in Jun Fan Gung Fu under the Jun Fan Gung Fu Institute of Seattle, under the supervision of Sifu Andy Kimura, but really it's Sifu Andy, his son, who's doing the majority of the instruction. I'm a full instructor in the Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do Grappling Association, started by the late Larry Hartzell, and I'm a senior second in the Chinatown Jeet Kune Do Association, which was created by some full instructors in the Sifu Tim Tackett lineage. All of that is to say, those are my credentials in the same way that I would you know, I would state my college degrees on a resume. This is the way that I am teaching it, and this is the way that it has been taught to me. And this is the way that I run my curriculum. The Jun Fan Gung Fu is the, those are the seminal drills and techniques and the style, if you will, right? Because Jun Fan Gung Fu means, Jun Fan was Bruce Lee's Chinese name. So really you're saying Bruce Lee's system of Kung Fu, all right? Jeet Kune Do is developing your own tailor-made system of combat from the martial values that you studied in your Jun Fan. Okay, so if you look at my curriculum, the Jun Fan levels are the drills and the techniques and the combinations. The Jeet Kune Do levels are more about performance, sharing out some research, and developing your own structure and approach from what you discovered by studying your Jun Fan. Okay, so Jun Fan Level 1, we start everybody with their dominant side in front. So I'm right-handed, so I have my right hand in front. My lead straight punch would be my jab. My rear straight punch would be my cross. I have my hook here. I have my body hook. Those were both technically the lead hook and the lead body hook. In the curriculum, not that there's anything wrong with it, but we don't put a lot of emphasis into developing a rear hook. We found that people can more easily develop, with power, a good lead hook or a good lead body hook. So we put more energy into that. So we have the jab, we have the cross, we have the hook, we have the body hook, we have the lead uppercut, we have the rear uppercut, we have the lead overhand. It's like a looping diagonal hook. We have the rear overhand. And then in my Jun Fan curriculum, I've added the lead hammer fist and the rear hammer fist. And that's kind of a forced exploration. I make my students now explore both the overhands, which is this line hitting with the knuckles, and the hammer fist, which is those lines hitting with the bottom of the hand. So I'm going to bring in Simo Jean, okay? And she's helping me out tonight. And we're going to use this. This is actually, this is a trainer. This is all foam. And when the company that makes these was developing these, they sent Guru Inosanto one of the first ones. And I really like this because you have to know your stuff on your own, whereas the focus mitts, the shape of however they're being held kind of give away the answer. So just going to put your hand through there and grab the bar. Very simple, okay? And I'm not going to go real hard or anything. Okay, so the jab, obviously straight, you know, straight punch, and I mean, wherever it's going to hit, it's probably going to do damage. The cross is really the same thing. The hook, the jaw is good. Maybe the temple, we want to be careful by the skull, but here, that's always good. Obviously the body hook, I'm just going to touch, would go to the body. That's the one that I can't really show on this trainer. Hold this a little higher. The lead uppercut would come here. The rear uppercut would come here. Overhand, it's this looping downward diagonal shot, right? Maybe the temple, maybe the jaw, but it's kind of that downward angle. And then the hammer fists, you know, the side of the face, maybe the temple. We wouldn't really want to risk that because again, the skull is one of the hardest bones in the body. Okay, so where we go from here, and if you need to support that, use your other arm, I know. Okay, where we go from here is once we learn those as SDAs, single direct attack. That's the first way of attacking in Jeet Kune Do. And an SDA would just be, bop, maybe I hit with the jab, and maybe the person just decides, okay, this is not worth it, I'm done, the fight is over. Okay, so we learn those basic Western boxing tools as SDAs. Once we know them, we're ready to jump into the next way of attack from Jeet Kune Do, which is ABC, attack by combination. So we go into boxing 3 counts, and I don't know if you want to switch hands or whatever's going to help you hold that, okay? Triple jab, that's the first one. Jab, cross, jab, that's the next one. Jab, cross, hook. Jab, cross, I would go to the body hook. Jab, cross, uppercut. Jab, cross, overhand. And, jab, cross, hammer fist. That's the first family. And again, this is when I talk, you relax. That's the first family of techniques, and that's again what I would call like a forced exploration, because you're experiencing certain punches in combination. You're experiencing those with your dominant side in front, which is the way that it's supposed to be, at least the way traditionally that Jeet Kune Do or Jun Fan was taught. The second level, Jun Fan 2, is where we might go into the complementary lead. Now here, we start losing some people. Because, well, I read that Jeet Kune Do was only Jeet Kune Do if the dominant side was in front. Yes, Bruce Lee passed away at the age of 32. A lot of our questions can't get answered, but there is value in, I'll just do the ones that we've already done. Triple jab, jab, cross, jab, jab, cross, hook, jab, cross, body hook, jab, cross, uppercut, jab, cross, overhand, jab, cross, hammer fist. There is value exploring those on the other side of the body, because what we're really trying to reach for in Jeet Kune Do is not only bilateralism, but the idea of no lead. Like most fights, and this is verified, or a great significant portion of fights, this is verified by military and law enforcement footage. there's no preparation. There's no I get in the lead and you get in the lead and the referee. There's none of that. It's just boom, the conflict begins and it turns physical. And I mean, it's this. I'm standing there and then I have to react. So that's really what we're trying to develop, is no need for like, well, I got to be in my traditional Baizhong stance and I got to make sure that my weight's distributed properly and that I'm up off my rear heel. All of that is really good when conditions are ideal. But part of this is also just developing the ability, boom, to go at the first sign of trouble and not be, well, I like this in a left lead. No, I think I'm going to kick them, so I'm going to be in a right lead just to execute. Okay, so that's how we start. We start with, singular tools, the jab, the cross, the hook, the body hook, the uppercut, the rear uppercut, the overhands, the hammer fists. We start with those as singular tools. Then we start mixing those into attack by combination. I only went through, actually I'll do this while everybody's here and then we'll go into trapping, okay? So to go back, if you want to run these with me at home, you certainly can, and this will add to what we were doing last week. So we did the first family. The second family is really cross, X, cross. So it's going to start with a cross. The middle punch is going to change, and we're going to kind of work through all of our boxing variables, and then it's going to end with a cross. So what do I mean by that? Cross, jab, cross. That's the first one from that family. Cross, hook, cross. That's the next one. Cross, body hook, cross. Cross, uppercut, cross. Cross, overhand, cross. Cross, hammer fist, cross. And then level 2, cross, jab, cross. Cross, hook, cross. Cross, body hook, cross. Cross, uppercut, cross. Cross, overhand, cross. Cross, hammer fist, cross. And then, and we learn all of these in a right lead. Most people, it's a right lead. Dominant side forward for Jun Fan level 1. Lead uppercut, rear uppercut, hook. Rear uppercut, lead uppercut, cross. Overhand, uppercut, overhand. Hammer fist, uppercut, hammer fist. Lead uppercut, rear uppercut, hook. Rear uppercut, lead uppercut, cross. Overhand, uppercut, overhand. Hammer fist, uppercut, hammer fist. Jun Fan level 2 is where whichever lead you were operating out of for the first initial learning, I force you to go into the other lead and do it there. And a lot of people would be like, well, isn't that too much curriculum? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 variables organized into beats or 3-beat combinations, and that's all it is. And again, it's like a forced exploration to start to figure out which of your boxing tools actually fit you. And last thing I'll say about boxing, and then we'll get into some Jun Fan and Jeet Kune Do style trapping. By making people go through that forced exploration, they really, that's the research aspect of figuring out like, oh, okay, when I'm in a left lead, man, I can always hit hard with my cross, no matter which lead I'm in. I don't really like the overhands. I like the hammer fists because I have all this padding on the bottom of my hand. That's kind of what we're talking about when we say Jeet Kune Do. The Jun Fan are all those building blocks that you have to experience, and you have to go through them, and you have to feel them, and again, I'll be a little repetitive here, experience them to filter them. Okay, and it's that filtered approach to the things that, like, man, I know this is a good punch for me. I know this technique is a high percentage technique. That development of those tailor-made things that philosophy and that process of developing that is really your Jeet Kune Do. Okay, so we're gonna go into trapping, and in Jun Fan level 1, I teach 7 trapping basics, and I've gone over them in previous classes. I'm gonna bring Simo Jean back in just a second, and we're gonna go over the basic 7 with you, and then I'm gonna show you how throughout the curriculum we really take a Jeet Kune Do approach to developing your proficiency with those. Okay, so this is going to look very similar to the ending of the Wing Chun class. We're going to be right side and front. We're going to be in a high reference point, and we have 7 basics here. Number 1 is I slap and I hit with a, in the JKD curriculum, I promise I'm not going to hit you. It can be a knife hand, it can be a gua choi, it can be a sokol, reverse hammer fist. Any of that is good. Let's actually change sides so we can see, okay? So variation number 1, the idea, boom, is that I score. Slap and hit, and I make contact. And hopefully, bop, maybe I hit the person so hard that they just go, okay, this is not worth it, all right? The very best, at the risk of being a cliche, the very best kind of fight that you can have is the one that you avoid. That's the ideal situation. Your spider sense goes off, you have a bad vibe, you were going to go to a place that has a bad reputation, you talk your friends into going somewhere else. That's the best kind of fight, the one that you don't have. The second best kind of fight, is the kind of fight that you win in 1 beat and you cause an amount of damage that is reasonable for the conflict. So if this is the stereotypical, if she's a guy and she's 6'5" and she's had 20 beers and it's just some silly guy who really doesn't even have the physical, he's so blitzed he couldn't hurt you if he really wanted to, like double leg takedown, and then the guy hits the back of his head on the concrete, and then you ground and pound his face until he's scarred for the rest of his life. That guy in that situation really didn't deserve all of that. If it's that guy that I'm describing, okay? If it's a bunch of people out to take your life, yeah, you gotta make some really bad decisions about some really horrible options. But the second best kind of fight that you can have is a fight that's over in 1 beat, and you do an amount of damage that is actually appropriate for the situation. So anyways, variable number 1 is I slap and hit and I score. Variable number 2 is I start with 1, she parries across center line, so my left hand pulls and hits. So number 2 is called pak sao, lop sao, or slap and hit, pull and hit. Okay, so we'll change sides for you a few times. We learn these in the high reference point, and I'm going to do all of them from the high reference point for you and then show you how we work these and try to approach some level of mastery of these basic 7 throughout the JKD curriculum. So, I'm so sorry. So 1, boom, I score. 2, she crosses center line and I pull and hit. Okay, 3 and 4, instead of the knife hand, some water. Instead of the knife hand, we're gonna pak, we're still gonna slap and hit, but we're gonna come in with the chung choi, okay, the vertical punch for 3 and 4. Most people will stop you on center line or slap here with your left hand and come in straight like a vertical punch, or they'll give you this, like they'll move their head back and they'll stop you on or before center line. Okay, if she pushes past, well, I just go to number 2. But most people, if you do a chung choi, they're going to stop you on center line. So 3, I go inside, and it's an inside slap. Okay, so it's double slap and hit or double pak sao is 3. Let's change sides, please. Okay, So 3, slap and hit, inside slap and hit. That's 3. 3 out of 7. So we're almost halfway done. 4, well, I made number 4 because if you can do 3, you can do 4. You start like 3, you punch on this open line, and then you finish like 3. So 3 is Pak Sao, Chung Choi, Loi Pak Sao, or slap and hit, punch, inside slap and hit. That's number 4. So we have 4 out of 7 done, and I'll review these for you. 5 is the outlier. 5 is the one that doesn't start with a Pak Sao. 5, I'm going to pull and hit. She's going to parry that, and I'm going to pull and hit on the other side. Now, I like the Satsao, that knife hand, because in a multiple player situation, I can see her out of my periphery. I can see her right now. I can see her here. And if there's multiple people, that's why I'm doing these Satsaos with that turn. Not only that, and that makes this shot really hard and this shot really hard if it scores, or the first one might score. If it doesn't, I move to the second one. And I get to scan my area, and I get to keep her in my periphery. So that's number 5, double Lopsauer, double pull and hit. 2 more, and we're done. 6 and 7, I go back to slap and hit with the knife hand, like 1. She parries across center line. Now, in reality, boom, I'm trying to come right down center line and score with this eye jab because she crossed center line. But we're going to train it where she slightly lifted this arm and provided an obstruction. So we call this the wedge. Number 6 and number 7 are both going to involve the wedge. So 6, I slap and hit, I wedge, and then I slap and hit. Because again, like I said in the last class, this is kind of Wing Chun influence trapping. You're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't. If you do nothing, I'm going to hit you. If you block, well, I'm going to reopen the line and I'm going to hit you. So 6 is Pak, wedge, Pak, or slap and hit, wedge to slap and hit. 7 is identical, and then I'll review all these for you. Starts the same, but I'm going to pull and hit. Okay, so it's Pak Sao, wedge, Lop Sao, or slap and hit, wedge, pull and hit. So nice and slow for you. Let me go over all those. 1, boom, I score. That's the idea, is I hit. Pak Sao. Okay, slap and hit with the knife hand. Suts out. Okay. Number 2 starts like 1. She crosses center line, so I pull and hit. Pak Sao, Lop Sao. Slap and hit, pull and hit. Number 3 and number 4, I'm coming in straight. Typically, people are going to give you more center line or pre-center line energy. So 3 is slap and hit to inside slap and hit. 4 starts like 3, but I punch on the open line, and then I finish like 3. So it's Pak Sao, Chung Choi, Loi Pak Sao, or slap and hit, punch, inside slap and hit. 5 is the outlier because I'm not starting with Pak Sao, pull and hit, pull and hit. So it's double Lop Sao. Okay, and that was actually a really important rep. In my organization, if the person, let's say she does block this second shot, I don't continue with the third Lop Sao. Number 5 is 2 Lop Saos, regardless of what the person gives me. Sometimes the person will just allow me to simulate scoring the shot, and sometimes people will raise your right hand. People will intuitively raise their hand, and we don't we don't do this. This is not number 5. Like stand there and Lop Sao all day long. Number 5 is supposed to be 2 Lop Saos. Lop Sao just means pull and hit or grab and hit. 2 Lop Saos, and then that's it. That's our number 5. Then remember 6 and 7 start the same. I end up wedged. So 6, I slap and hit. I end up wedged. 7, I pull and hit. Those are our basic 7. I teach those Jun Fan level 1, very first level of curriculum in the Jun Fan or the Jeet Kune Do progression. Okay, where we go from there is entries. So the first entry would be, it doesn't matter if you have your hands up or not, our feet would be the Jeet Tech, okay? She moves in towards me, boom, and I jam, okay? That's that intercepting kick. The Jeet in Jeet Kune Do means interception, okay? The way of the intercepting fist. So in that case, it's a Jeet Tech, which is the side kick. As a Jeet Tech, it's intercepting. But what we found when I developed this progression, if you're the one feeding, it was very awkward to give a step and slide every time the other person was getting ready to trap. So all you do is stand there and you keep your hands up, okay? So the first entry, Jeet Tech, number 1. Then she's gonna parry. Jeet Tech, there's number 2. If she stops me on center line or before center line, there's number 3. Give me that same response. That was perfect. Ooh, there's number 4. Okay. 5 is the outlier. Jeet Tech, and I pull and hit. Okay. So I just reach out in that case right here, and I grab, and then I pull and hit on the other side. Okay. 6 was Pak wedge Pak. So I Jeet Tech, I slap and hit. She parries across center line, I wedge, and I slap and hit. 7 is everything's the same except I'm gonna pull and hit. So what we're doing there, it's the basic 7 that we learned from the high reference point, but where we start going in the curriculum is we have offensive and defensive entries. And the way we're doing it is offensive. Like you could be, hands up, you could be in a kickboxing mode, boom, and just come in and tag and enter from there, right? Or like I showed you, she could move in on me, bam, and I could jam and then come in. Either one of those applications are completely appropriate for the Jeet Tech. But the Jeet Tech is the first entry in the curriculum, okay? This part, you know, we've been married for a while now, but we don't do a lot of training together. So I don't want to slap my wife's arms up. So I'm going to go a little slower and a little lighter than I would normally do this. Not that she's made out of glass, she's not, but I don't want to hurt my wife. Okay. So the second entry, jab me, is this split entry, and then this ball and socket. Okay. So Pak Loida, and I will typically Buji. So I like Pak Loy Buji Da. And then there's a second Pak Sao here while this circles. So super slow. Here's my split entry. Here's my ball and socket. And, you know, I think we'll close on this. You can see the logic. This is the second entry. If that scores, that's number 1. Let's do this on the other side because they have some different perspectives here. If she crosses center line with the rear barrier, she picked like you parry, like you're trying to protect your face, then I do number 2. If she stops me on center line, then I can go number 3 or number 4. Number 5, I'm gonna pull inside. Maybe she brings that hand up and I pull inside. That's the only one that might not be immediately recognizable. Because remember when we were in the reference point, I was coming from the outside, right? Outside pull and hit, outside pull and hit. Well, with this entry, jab me, it's the same lop sao, which is pull and hit, but I go from the inside. And then she might bring her other hand up and I go from the inside. Okay, so that's one minor variable on 5. And then 6, remember 6 was slap and hit, wedge, slap and hit. Well, I take that, jab me, off of, she parries across center line, wedge, slap and hit. I take it off of that entry. And then 7 was Pak Sao, wedge, pull and hit. So this is the same, this is the same, this is the same as 6, but then I'm gonna pull and hit. So it's the same 7 basic traps, thank you, okay? And something I hear all the time in lots of different JKD circles, there's too many techniques. There's too many techniques. Well, here there's only 7 techniques, and we learn the basic 7 in the first level. And 6 out of the basic 7 start with the first movement, which is Pak Sao. So it's not that bad. And then all we do, we start finding different ways to get into those basic 7. So you saw the first 2 entries, right? So 7 times 2, you saw 14 techniques, but then you have 2 leads. So I guess 28 techniques, but not really, because you're not memorizing 28 separate things. You're learning 7 things, and then over the course of the curriculum, right now I may add some more. Right now we have 7 entries. So 7 different ways of getting into those 7 things. Some of them, like the jab, I was doing split entry to ball and socket. That was defensive, right? She started, she initiated, so I split. The if the person's moving in on you and you Jeet Tech to Pak Sao or whichever one you're gonna do, that's defensive. Like I showed a few minutes ago, if I move in on you into my my Juk Tech, my low side kick, and then I enter, that's more offensive. Okay, so 7 entries times 7 basics is 49 techniques. You have 2 leads though, so 98 techniques, and then I could have you do it empty-handed, or I could have you do everything in boxing gloves. So 196 techniques, but not really. Once again, it's not memorizing 196 things. It's internalizing and really owning 7 things on both sides of the body, and then having 7 ways to get into those things. All right, and again, we'll probably end on this idea. This is kind of a forced exploration, and I love Wing Chun trapping. I think it's fascinating. It's why you don't have to do this for your own Jeet Kune Do. It's why I finished the system and earned a full instructorship. And I think Wing Chun is fascinating. A lot of people don't, and they don't want to go through the whole system, and I certainly respect that. And for your JKD, you don't have to. And sometimes a lot of people, their ego starts writing checks for them. Well, Bruce Lee never finished the Wing Chun system. No, he didn't. We're not being mean or trying to take anything away from Bruce Lee. How could we? Because look what he did in 32 years. But I would say the same thing. No, he didn't finish Wing Chun, but look what he did with what he had. Astounding. Okay, so that's the way we approach our trapping. That's the way we build it. That gives you, like, Jun Fan level 1, we have the Jeet Tech, and we're getting that down. And then Jun Fan 2, we introduce entry 2, which you saw was the split entry, and entry 3. And then, we finish up Jeet Kune Do phase 1. If you have any questions about my progression, you can send me an email or a message, and I'll basically, the way it's organized, the Jun Fan levels are the prerequisites to take your Jeet Kune Do phase levels. So Jun Fan 1 and Jun Fan 2 are the prerequisites for Jeet Kune Do phase 1. Jun Fan 3 and Jun Fan 4 are the prerequisites for phase 2. 5 and 6 are the prerequisites for JKD phase 3. And then just Jun Fan 7 leads to JKD phase 4, and then that's the curriculum in its entirety. Okay, so, and once again, what would that look like? Well, what you've seen in this class, and really the 3 classes, this is the 3rd one now that I've recorded, what you've seen is more of the Jun Fan. The Jeet Kune Do is going to be more like light sparring, contested energy, performance. There's going to be some question or martial arts problem kind of given to you, and you're going to have to go out and find answers or solutions. And so typically the JKD tests are shorter than the Jun Fan test, but the JKD tests are more intense and more of like a cardiovascular experience than the Jun Fan. Okay, so anyways, we're gonna just, pardon me. Thank you. We're just gonna wrap this up a few minutes early here. Thank you so much for joining me on JKD. So Chinese, Filipino, Thai, Indonesian, French, and Dog Brothers, Japanese. My channel again is Dr. Bryan Stoops. That's the name of my channel. Please do, if you're enjoying these classes, please recommend them or share links with as many people as possible. Please give us some love through, watches and likes, and then please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, because as I turn this recording off, I like to try to upload the classes to my channel as soon as possible so I don't get behind. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next week.